Hello everyone, my name is Audrey. Welcome back to season 2 of Reset TV Talk. Today I'm joined with
Raneem,
a musician, producer, crazy storyteller, obsessed with rock climbing. But before we get into any of that, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm actually really enjoying sitting here.
Thank you for coming on. I'm really excited to hear your story. I feel like I've interviewed you before, but it was for like a completely different context. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see your thoughts on this for sure. Today's episode is all about what happens when you kind of color outside the lines in relationship to the parental pressures. And like parental pressures is universal. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. Your parents are gonna, whether subconsciously or consciously, like almost pass down or like implement and put on you these pressures. But I feel like a different level is added when you migrate. And when part of your story is moving from a completely different place to another and setting up shop and making that your home, and what happens when you hit your teen years, when you go to university. So we're going to break it down into 3 parts: building, your background, and great advice. So before we get into any of that, tell me your story. How did you end up in New Zealand? What was it like growing up for you? What are some things that really stuck out, or like parts of yourself that you had to unlearn, relearn as a result of like growing up in a country but not being from this country?
Okay, huge question. I suppose we start at the beginning. So I'm originally from Iraq. Both of my parents are Iraqi, specifically Chaldean Assyrian, which is like a very small minority in like North Iraq. And it kind of encompasses like Kurdistan, South Armenia, South Turkey. My family moved to Libya first, lived there for about 7 years. And that's where I was born, in Libya.
Okay, cool.
In 1999.
Yeah.
And then a year or two after that, we were forced migrants to New Zealand. My dad kind of got in good with the government. Like he was on his P's and Q's and he was given that opportunity. So they took it and ran.
Yeah.
I mean, because even in Libya, like we're Christian Iraqis. And Christians at the time weren't really taken favorably in Libya either.
Okay.
So they weren't having a good time there just as much as they weren't back home.
Yeah.
So coming to New Zealand was a huge, I mean, despite the challenges we faced here, it definitely was way better off.
Yeah.
I think we first moved to Hamilton. I vaguely remember spending some time in Hamilton. There was this cul-de-sac we lived in. That was around the time I was about 2 or 3, just when I was becoming, sentient in the world around me. And then moved to Auckland, South Auckland. Have lived in South Auckland my entire life. Mostly in Papatoi, a little bit in Otara, a little bit in Manurua, and now currently residing in Manukau.
That's incredible. I feel like that is often when you, for a lot of people who come over in their teen years, it's like almost more acceptable for them to be like, yeah, I had to readapt and I had to relearn. But even because I came over as well when I was like a baby from Kenya, but my family's Burundian. And even then, there were so many parts of my life because my parents were readapting and relearning. I was too, but only things that I didn't like that I realized weren't normalcy in my teen years. Because you grow up, like everyone grows up in your house and everything you think is normal, you think everyone's family does this, and then you go for that one random sleepover and you see the family dynamic at the dinner table and you're like, what the frick is going on? Why is nobody doing this? Why is nobody doing that? So what was one thing that you realized the older you got, actually no one else does this? And it is because like as a result of my parents being forced to migrate, that's why I have this thing. That's why I do this thing that other people haven't had to do.
Man, that's a great question. I would say it's kind of the other way around for me.
Okay.
So I think it's I think it's a pretty cool experience because half of my life is like getting specifically South Auckland Kiwi culture.
Yeah.
And then the other half is like getting very traditional ethnic Catholic, like Christian Iraqi culture.
Yeah.
Like it's 2 completely different.
Very oxymoronic.
But they're also very niche as well.
Yeah.
Like so few people have experienced like specifically South Auckland culture growing up.
Yeah.
And then also Chaldean Assyrian culture growing up. So that's super interesting to me. And when I was younger, it was a lot of that like, it's such a dichotomy, right? And so when I was younger, it was like, oh, we're the only family that does this. And this is the only place where we do that. And like as I got older, I realized that like while it might be dressed a little differently because I'm in this particular niche culture, it's more or less the same types of things that like I found myself relating incredibly deep with people that are just ethnic
Right,
from different
right.
places. And
Yeah.
even people that didn't migrate here,
Yeah.
but just grew up in South Auckland, there's a ton of parallels in how we grew up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did music come in? Because that's what really made me draw to you and be like, okay, no, this is the perfect person to open up this season, because it is such a joke and it's such a stereotype, but it's so true. There are only 4 things you can do if you have migrant parents, and it's if you're not a lawyer, if you're not a nurse, if you're not a cop, if you're not an engineer, they literally don't want to hear it. And I remember for me, a little bit, it was kind of backwards, and then it wasn't when they realized that I love music. I got into it when I was 15. I did a random musical. I hate musicals, but I loved this one. I ended up doing it, and it was my first time singing publicly, like in front of other people. And my mom was like, "Wow, Audrey, you're really good. Like, you should really go for this thing." And I was like, "Okay, whatever. Like, maybe, but maybe not." And then I joined a jazz band when I moved to Rangi, and that's when my brain was like, "Oh no, we're doing this." Like, jazz opened up my whole world. And when I started investing into it, and I started loving on it, when I started wanting to really go down this path, my parents were like, "Wait, no, it's just a hobby. Like, you're gifted, but we don't want you to keep going at this thing. You need to think about what you're doing at uni. We need to think about what you're going to do outside of music." So for you, what was that point? Was there a specific moment where you were like, "Wait, no, this rap thing, like hip hop, I love it and I want to do it"?
Great question. I knew very early.
Okay.
It is difficult because I'm not sure where it started, how it started, why I started. All I know is that there was something about having G Unit, like Eminem, Bone Thugs, those people playing in the house 24/7 when I was growing up. And I remember even as early as like 3 or 4 years old, seeing like the what's 50 Cent's first song? They're like dun 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 in the club, dude. When In the Club came on,
I love how you know that.
I was thinking of. I know it's not just a little bit, but that's my mom's favorite 50 Cent song.
Stop. Your mom bangs 50 Cent?
Bangs, and she can't speak a lick of English, dude.
But she's like, "Oh, no, in the club." Wow, P.M.P., P.I.M.P.,
If
wow.
only she knew what Candy
21
Shop was
Question.
all about, But
No.
that's one of her favorite songs. But yeah,
Wow.
in the club, man.
Shout out to your mom.
In the Club came on TV. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, they're making 50 Cent in a lab?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
they were actually doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that just spoke to me in a way I can't tell you. Like, it just felt so familiar, even at such a young age. And that just had been such a strong pillar of like the personality I had growing up. And I was like bully bait at in school, like all throughout school. You know? Just like really easy pickings, like short dude, like nerdy, not really sporty. So I was easy pickings, but then there was this one thing I could do, which was like put words together. And it started with like rap. And it came a lot from just like listening to all this rap music at home. Like a huge amount of this I was exposed to. And once I was able to like get that confidence to showcase this ability and then get the feedback that it was good. Right. And it wasn't I don't even know if it was like they were laughing at me or whatever. They probably were, but that didn't matter to me. I was like, there was something amazing about doing that that like I need to figure out how to do it again and again and again.
Yeah. Because I think that's where I met you, was at a spoken word thing. And that's when I realized I had the same story as well. It was like that when I realized I could write and then I loved it and it loved me back. And then I went into this competition and it's like, not just me, there's hundreds of kids that are actually into this thing that is connotated with like Shakespeare and old and weird and who writes poetry anymore, And I feel like that's when you realize that weird thing about you actually isn't that weird. You're just not surrounded by people who are into it. And it's all about finding your community and actually investing into it as well.
Yeah, I mean, even if there wasn't a community, if I was the weird guy, it just like doesn't bother me at all.
Right.
It really doesn't. Like, throw whatever dude. When you're your own worst critic and then also go to like be in my household, like there's really
it's a character building place.
Very little you can say that like actually does anything to me,
that's facts.
Yeah. Like, what do you get to do? I would have said what you just said way worse to myself, like on my own terms, So where these whole like terms you want to throw at the stuff that I am into, is like so frivolous. Like it just means nothing. Like
Yeah.
it's the benefit of the joy and the like fulfillment I get doing this completely outweighs the negative feedback I get from someone who has no idea what goes into what I do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that, you can call me weird, man. So be it. That's the best thing to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for you in your home, are you the only person that kind of went this route?
Yeah, I kind of get a little bit of like, it kind of hurts me in a way. 'Cause everyone I talk to in this whole scene, is like, yeah, man, my dad's a this, and he did that.
Right, and you don't really have
And
that.
I'm like, bro, no one in my family like is musically oriented in any way.
Okay.
Even extended family, really.
Yeah.
My mom sings a lot. Like, that's her favorite thing. She sings a lot. But aside from that, there's no music or art in my family.
Okay.
And I've got 4 siblings.
Okay.
And yeah, nobody does anything remotely art related.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of that as well. Like when going back to your question earlier, it's like when that kind of started becoming apparent in my personality that I wanted to kind of take this thing seriously, which was very early too. It was around 16, 17. I was like taking it quite seriously. It was like a pretty solid no-no. Yeah, very, very much discouraged, very much like not supported. Even now, I mean, like I appreciate my siblings really like try to help me out and, push my stuff now at least, and so do my parents here and there. But like, I just completely stopped telling my parents like any of the cool things I'm doing in music anymore, like anything to do with this creative industry, because it just falls on deaf ears, or it's going to be met with some kind of like criticism on what I'm trying to do, like what I should be doing,
Yeah.
So I think the reason like labels and things like that don't get to me is because like I've had the worst of it from the people you try to make the most proud. And then that doesn't bother me now anymore. So there's really nothing you can say
anymore.
that's
Yeah.
gonna bother me, dude. Like I can't even get these guys on board and I don't care.
Yeah.
So
That's so interesting because I had the exact opposite. When I got into music, like everyone in my family can sing, wants to be in the worship team. My mom's insane. Like I grew up on reggae and Aretha Franklin. Like, so when I was like, yeah, I want to do music. And when I sang, my family kind of be like, oh, you really thought you ate? Like this is normal. The notes you can hit, the gift you've got, so does 5 of our bloodlines. And so for me, it was like, I had to get my confidence from, the word isn't from myself because I praise God for it, but it was more about like, holy cow, this is not cool. This is normalcy. So now what? Like if I'm the second generation to go after this thing and I don't make it, maybe that's why people keep discouraging the next generations, because we had the same dreams, but it didn't work out. So there's no point kind of thing. If that makes sense.
yeah, I'm sorry it didn't work out for you, but like
I'm going for it. I'm going for it.
No,
yeah.
I don't mean you specifically.
No, the person who says it.
Putting it down. It's like, look, man, I know you're in your 40s and it like didn't work out.
Yeah.
I'm an accountant or whatever. Dude, it's cool to be an accountant.
Yeah.
Great. We need those. Like, I'm not even being a dick. But like, I'm sorry it didn't work out for you. I'm fine if it doesn't work out. You understand? Like,
But I wouldn't be okay if I didn't go for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be okay if I didn't go for it. Like,
yeah.
Why? I honestly do not mind if like none of this ever goes anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm already successful in the fact that I found my thing.
Yeah.
That's great. For the rest of my life, I'm going to have my thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's what the joy of this has brought me. That like, I know what my thing is. And it's like, it's unbelievable the fulfillment I get just sitting in my room, making a beat, singing a melody, like writing a stanza, something, anything that to do with this creative process.
Yeah.
Like the success in itself, whatever results come out of that after this is like, this conversation is great. I don't care where this goes. I'm sure it's going to go to a good cause or whatever, but that's your guys' decision. I'm just enjoying this conversation.
Yeah.
There's magic being made here and like I get to express something and like I get to be true to my story. And like, that's the kind of stuff I froth over.
I love that. Yeah. So we're going to go to part 2. And I guess we can end it here, right? Okay, welcome back to part 2. Raneem, how are you feeling after our break?
I feel good.
Okay.
I feel ready to get stuck into this conversation, man.
Okay, sick. So we broke down and got to delve into your background a little bit, where your passion comes from, why you felt like it was worth it to go for this thing that really contradicted a lot of the things that was your family norm. But now I really want to focus on like the building of the bridge. And so you have an engineering degree where you're working on it last year.
Yeah.
So you technically satisfied that part of their desire. You technically met what they wanted, but you went for what you wanted in that same token. So for you, where did that come from? Was that a thing of, if I can give them what they want, they will feel the pride that you desire, they'll get off my back, they'll allow me to go for what I want? Or was it just kind of this thing, actually, I really do enjoy engineering, but I'm creative. And so you satisfy that part of your makeup in going in the art and also doing something that's quite analytical and focused?
I'll just be completely honest.
Yeah.
I have almost zero interest in engineering.
Okay, cool.
The concept, yes. The academic study,
No, yeah.
I hate it.
Right.
I truly do. When I think about my parents' pilgrimage here with my family, I've got 3 older siblings who lived some of their childhood in Libya. And just the difficulties that they faced here. And I was, kind of able to bypass a little bit of those because I was born a little bit later.
Yeah.
As I get older, I tend to see the kind of work that they put in over those years a little bit clearer. I get to see them through a bit more of a mature point of view and a mature perspective where I'm like, damn, that's actually like quite amazing that I was able to get this when I was a kid. I was able to get this now in my 20s. Like I'm able to have this opportunity. Like I don't take it for granted at all that I'm in a position where I can't even pursue music.
Okay.
Despite my parents' best wishes or, whoever is around that is discouraging me, I still actually have the ability to pursue it. Some people just don't have that luxury at all. And that doesn't come without my parents, without the understanding that my parents have put in some amazing hard yards to allow for those freedoms and those privileges. So yes, it is a it's a pursuit of self-expression, and it's a pursuit that's, I would say a little bit selfish. There's some grandiose individuality that comes with it. But that I have to remember that that's not possible without the foundation my parents laid down. So with that being said, what do my parents want me to do? Well, of course they want me to go to university, right? Of course they want me to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. That's just like the classic Middle Eastern dream, especially from immigrant parents. So I did do 1 year of health science, only because I had the credit score to go into it, and I went for a year and I was like, this isn't science.
Yeah.
This is just reading. I mean, it is science, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I decided to get out of that, and I went to engineering. I'm in my last year, and yeah, that's really all it is. It's like my parents broke their backs to provide such a foundation for me to do what I want, essentially, that the least I can do for them is let them say, hey, my son's an engineer. If they don't want to say, hey, my son's an artist, that's completely fine. So that's my due diligence to honor them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that so interesting because for me, my form of due diligence and my form of offering it back to them was going after what I wanted, so that I can say I didn't have to sacrifice my dreams for the next, for my children, because it's so hard. My mom is one of the most incredible writers I know, if not the best. And my dad's mind is stupid. What he knows is insane. He was that guy that we would go for road trips and he would be like, yeah, that's the mountain that they had to do this and this on because of this and this, or all my calculus problems, all of my life problems. He was so able to compartmentalize and execute. And my mom's written books on books on books and nobody knows about it. Yeah. And her voice carries incredible sound, and everything people compliment my voice for, I learned, and I watched and I heard through her friends. And the idea of keeping that to myself so that I can be able to say, yeah, I'm a lawyer, which is what I was studying at uni, seems like a waste of time. That and the fact that I serve and believe in God. And so the idea of going to him and being like, I'm a lawyer. He's like, I don't care. Were you faithful? Were you serving hearted? Did you love people? Did you love people well? There's so much more important, So I feel like my desire and the way I go about it is actually, do you know what it is? If everybody I came into contact with was able to say that I loved them well, it's a good life, And so I find that so interesting. Describe your household. What was it like growing up? Because there are so many atypical, stereotypical things I could say about a Middle Eastern Iraqi home.
Shoot me a few.
Baklava.
Yeah.
1000%?
Billion%.
Okay.
And still.
Okay. Baklava is like diabetes on steroids.
Baklava.
Baklava.
But I'm not going to get mad at how you say it.
Baklava.
Yeah.
Okay.
Baklava. Yeah.
What else? What else is like atypical, and what was it like growing up in your house?
Buckets of hummus. Like, that's not a joke. That's
Yogurt with everything. You guys eat yogurt with everything.
I definitely do.
Except fish. But like everything else has yogurt.
I put yogurt on everything.
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 Oh my gosh.
Everything. Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Greek yogurt. Yeah. Buckets of Greek yogurt at the house, homemade. Cheese. Freezers full of Tupperware that my mom forgets about. That's all true.
Okay.
When they're calling their parents on the phone and it's like they're
decibels are so
yelling
high.
to the country that's like the phone, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, when you say what kind of household, like, because it's so normal to me, I don't even know what to bring up. So, where
okay, this is true.
Yeah.
Well, I want to set up this scene for how you had to merge the two.
Yeah.
And what was it like? Because it's always this thing of like, I'm too Kiwi for Burundi, but I'm too Burundian for New Zealand, right?
Yeah. You know, those things, I'm all of the above. It's like, I'm too this for that, but I'm all
too this for that.
Like,
literally, yeah. I'm too assertive for like a woman, but I'm also like too meek and, you know, all these different things. So how did you build the two? Like, how did you go about implementing the parts that you love and you adore about your culture and your country and the way your parents raised you? And you still didn't like negate readapting and taking on the Western culture and taking on the different things that New Zealand has to offer. Like my parents and their family are so surprised that I love surfing or that I go cliff jumping, you know. Oh really? Okay. Cool.
That's cool.
You know, but then my Kiwi friends are so surprised that I still speak my language and I sing songs in my language and I dress up. Sometimes if I go to a 21st, I won't wear like a dress from Pagani. I wear something cultural. Do you know what I mean? So how did you go about the duality and how did you balance that?
I mean, balance is a hilarious word because I don't know what that means. No, I mean, it's such a lifelong journey.
Right.
I don't even think I'm 10% of the way of figuring out what that duality looks like.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know what that duality looks like. You know what I mean? Like, I only know what I really know as a 24-year-old who's lived this life so far.
Yeah.
All I can do really is take the parts that I like and I think serve me from both sides. So there's some Western philosophies and, you know, behaviors and cultural norms that I subscribe to that outweigh some of the traditional Eastern things that I maybe think don't serve me as much. But then vice versa, there's some Western ideas that I push aside because I'm like, actually, I see what it looks like in my traditional Eastern household.
Yeah.
That this serves myself, my family, and the community much better. But that's completely subjective. I don't even know. I would say I'm who I am, and I'm trying to figure out what I am, like what that means. And so it's really hard to say what that duality looks like because there's some things that I could have taken from the West that I would think are the Eastern side of me, but it may not be. Like this, for example, Chaldean Assyrians were very like aggressive, right? So there's this like aggression within the household all the time. It's like static all the time. But then it's also like a Western thing to have some authority to talk back to your parents. That just like doesn't exist in the traditional
at
system,
all. Yeah,
right?
same.
So it's like, so if I'm in that position where maybe I have a disagreement with my parents, is that the Western side of me doing that, or is that the rooted like
That's so
traditional
true.
Eastern side of me?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm on this journey to figure out what that all is.
Yeah.
All I can do is just kind of, you know, trim the hedge and see what I like and what I don't like, and then figure out if that serves me in the future.
Yeah. I feel like that's really intriguing though, because like it's so hard not to be like, no, but this is better. Like growing up in New Zealand, there's so many ideologies or just thoughts that influence my mum's behaviors and all things that I'm like, that's actually so patriarchal. Like that's like, what do you mean? Like I think you being ambitious is incredible, you know, and I think you going after what you want and raising women who are synonymous to that is one of my favorite things about you, you know. But then when I look at those from back home who look at my lifestyle, they're like, Audrey's doing what? she's a pastor? Where? You know, like, no, women don't do that. That's not what's supposed to be happening in her life. You're telling me she's never had a boyfriend? Seriously? She's not on her way to having a kid? You know, all these different things are because of their lifestyle. That was just how it went. It was such a calculated, formatted thing that it's so hard not to look at it and be like, but this is better because that's all they know. And you don't want to dishonor or disrespect their life, you know, the way of being. And so for you, when you think about breaking it down to somebody else, and like imagine somebody comes to you and they're like, Raneem, I am obsessed with painting, you know, and I, you know what, I don't want to satisfy or give back my due diligence by going to uni. How do I sit down with my mom? How do I sit down with my dad and articulate myself in a way that is not going to make them feel like, frick, we wasted our time, but also without making me feel like I'm denying myself and I'm taking back something for myself in a way?
You don't.
Okay.
It's completely pointless.
Okay.
Like, your parents are just different people. It's not their fault. They're not going to see eye to eye with you. It's not their fault. They're completely different people, and you're their kid. They came from a completely different time. They went to a foreign country. They worked their ass off to build you a life. They have no idea what you're trying to say when you say, I want to pursue this thing. Because it's like, they're not wrong in saying that. But you're also not wrong in saying, like, yeah, okay, I can see that there's something else to life than just like building finding stable income and, you know, doing these things that honor my tradition and my last name and this and that. So you just don't. How much does this thing mean to you? Like, if someone was to take music away from me or tell me tomorrow you can't do this thing, like, I would give up everything to get it back. Right? And so it's like, honor and respect your parents' opinion. It's going to 100% be nothing that you want to hear. And if that's the case, then just don't even do it. Honestly, man, don't even do it. Don't bother. It's more problems than solutions.
Right.
They're not gonna get it, and they really don't get it until you start doing stuff with it.
Show evidence.
You need evidence, right? Like, you can't come to them with an idea. Everybody's got an idea. Everybody's got a dream. So their first instinct is like, oh, this is just a phase, and they're not even wrong in saying that because it might be.
Yeah.
So like, do your own due diligence and go pursue that thing for a while. See if you're really about it.
Yeah.
And by the time you have something to show them, then perhaps you can bring it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say otherwise, don't even bother. Like,
right.
They should just go pursue it.
Okay.
They're gonna disagree with you, or they're not. But then, like, who cares? Like, either they're gonna agree with you, and completely support you, and then great, you don't need that to help you out.
Yeah.
Or B, they're gonna completely disagree with you, and then that's also not gonna help you out.
Right.
So, you know.
No, I like that. That's cool. That's cool. So we're gonna take our second break, and we'll see you in part 3.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back.
Appreciate that.
We've hit our last part of this video, and I wanted to feel like we've concluded, and I wanted to feel like we opened up this huge conversation, this huge bag of worms, but we're allowing people to walk away being like, okay, this is how I handle it. So in this part, I really want to take all the gems, all the amazing things that you've learned, all the amazing things that began as incredible hardships that you've managed to kind of turn into this thing of like, you know what, it wasn't that bad. And also just for our listeners who are actually sitting right where you are, you've mentioned that, okay, there's no point trying to communicate with your parents and really break down this thing without actually providing proof and evidence that if you invest in this thing, it's going to give back to you. It's going to be great. It's going to be incredible.
Touch on that for just 2 seconds.
Go for it.
Just to make it clear what I was trying to say.
Okay.
So I would say it's beyond your efforts to go and mention or kind of, you know, have the talk with your parents about this if you're deciding to go outside of the box with what they want for you. Because A, their opinion is going to be supportive, in which case you don't need to hear it because they're going to support you. Or B, it's going to completely go against what you want and they're just going to discourage you, in which case you don't need to hear that. So you can mention it to them if you want. And if you need the support and you know they're supportive, go for it. But if you know truly in the back of your mind, which I think a lot of the ethnic audience is going to agree with this, they're going to be very discouraging. There's just no point.
Yeah.
There really is no point, and you need to bite the bullet, shoot for it, because I promise you, it's not just your parents that are gonna disagree with you.
It's gonna be
It's the whole community.
world. Yeah,
It's the whole community.
it really is, until you show for it.
Yeah.
Like, and you know what? That's not a bad thing, because you need to show yourself that you're serious.
Absolutely.
You know, like the amount of genres that I've delved into is incredible, and I'm so blessed that I have the freedom to do rock, to do jazz. But now that I'm really into this world of like alternative indie or whatever, even country, bro, I wrote a whole country album, and it was just like,
Killer.
you know what it is? It's like, sometimes you have to satisfy an urge, but nobody needs to know that that was actually a thing. Like, I learned privately that I suck at R&B music. I cannot write or sing R&B songs
We don't publish.
to save my life, you know? But I learned that by like doing like covers or like writing songs and beats with my friends in their garage or their bedroom, and I was like, you know what, this does not need to be heard. But if I went every time to my parents being like, no, but what about this? What about this? What about this? So I agree. But
I just wanted to make that clear.
no, you're good.
Don't disregard your parents' voice, but understand that it's not going to be what you want.
Yeah.
And if that's not going to serve your pursuit, then there's no point really doing it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's good.
Choose what serves the ride, man. Like, yeah. But yes, continue.
No, you're good. I really want to break down and offer a few pieces of like practical tips on how other people can be like, okay, I've decided I'm going to pursue this thing. How can I do it right? How can I do it and honor where I'm from? How can I do it? Because I found that a lot of people negate aspects of their culture that are actually incredibly beautiful and would actually make them stand out more. Like, I remember when I dropped Wasted Way, instead of actually having like an atypical bridge, having something that was really like what we sing back home and putting it in Swahili, people were like, whoa, we've never heard this on an indie track. We've never heard this on a song where it's just a guitar, an upright guitar, and a voice. Now she's adding harmonies in this and this. So how would you say people can actually step into that and figure out, because I've listened to your music of Chisme and there are some random bits everywhere, but there are some parts that make me feel like, oh, this really, whether it's my ignorance or not, this really sounds like where you're from, or the music that I've heard from Iraq, the Middle East, this is that vibe. And so how did you become proud of that? How did you go, Reneem, this needs to be in there, and you mixed both the worlds together?
Okay, cool question. In the same way you disregard your parents' opinion, you have to disregard the audience's opinion.
Okay.
I can't care what you think about my music.
Otherwise,
because it's not for you.
Yeah.
Right? It's like for me. That's the bottom line. Whatever the pursuit is. If you want to design websites, if you want to like make a clothing line, like whatever you want to do, you want to build giant like light shows, paint bowling balls, like whatever it is, man. Someone's not going to like it.
Yeah.
So you're not going to, it's going to be such a disservice to you to care about what they think.
Okay.
And I could kick myself because it took me a very long time to learn that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've talked to my other ethnic friends about this who are in similar positions to me. It's like there's such a thing when you first start that it's like, I have to be so dope to them that they have to agree with what I'm chasing.
Yeah.
But when you learn that habit early, then it can permeate to like once you're kind of over that hurdle.
Yeah.
Once you're over that hurdle, but then you've learned that behavior of like everything I have to do, everything I do from now on has to like be dope to them first. And that took me a very long time to unlearn. And I'm so glad I unlearned it. Like better now than never. Because once you like completely shed yourself of that whole thing of appeasing to this audience and appeasing to that audience and using these elements because they're hot right now, blah blah blah. You're doing a disservice to what you're doing this for. Like this is supposed to be self-expression, whatever it is, man. If you're even if it's a super technical thing like an engineering, which is like a lot of people would call that like objective, technical, etc. But there's a lot of creativity that's involved, and it's like a lot of the person's personality can come out if they allow themselves to do that. Like you have to kind of get out of your own way a little bit, allow yourself to just like what you like, and figure out what that is. And that comes with also trying things out. You know, if you're stuck in this path that your parents provide for you, which I don't even think is a bad thing to honor, by the way. Because it also is part of getting outside of the box. Like if it's something you're uncomfortable with, still do it. Because it's going to teach you what you don't like about it and what you do like about it if you You know what I mean? You need like that contrast of like chasing what you want, but then also doing stuff that you really don't want to do, that someone else is telling you to do. So you know why you don't want to do that. You know what I mean? It's like that experience will teach you what it is about it. And then you can draw from that and put it into your work. You know what I mean? I mean, there's people that make music that all they do is make music, and then they become unrelatable because their life experience starts to become just being in the studio.
Yeah.
Like you need to also go live life and like, you know, go to a gas station and take a dump, like, you know, have that experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's totally fine. I feel like I actually have nothing to add or subtract from that. That was very well articulated. I enjoyed listening to that. For anyone else who is going into it being like, okay, I'm proud, I'm making this for me, whatever it is. I've learned the duality. Now, how do I make this a part of who I am? How do I move on into life and always go after making my two worlds meet? Because I feel like when I joined like the worship team at church, and I realized just the way I sing is different because of where I'm from. Just the things and what I consider normal. Like honestly, I thought everyone did it. I really didn't think there's a difference. Like you were saying, it's my household. How can I tell the difference? Until you go out there. And so even in those places where it's less to do about with that content you're pushing out and more to do with about navigating communities, how do people make their two worlds meet in just the day-to-day mundane environments like university, like the workplace, like the petrol station, and that person's kind of looking at you really weird because you look different, or
It's all part of it.
like how do you balance it in that way? For lack of a better word.
I would say actively seek it. Go out of your way to do the stuff that might get you closer to the thing.
Yeah.
Because even if you go through something like that, I understand that's a bit vague of a thing to say, but let's say I don't want to go to university, but that's a 19-year-old me saying that. Well, the 19-year-old me doesn't know anything. So let's like go to uni for a bit and then the truth will emerge about why that's not for me.
Yeah.
Right. But then like you need to actively seek that. And similarly, like that's why you shouldn't go to your parents immediately and be like, hey, I want to be a dancer, because you don't know that yet. You need to go do it. Like I've done shows where I've taken the Uber costs more than the fee I got for the show. Right?
That's facts.
The Uber there costs more. And there's like 3 people in the crowd. And
those are my favorite shows.
And I still give it my 110%.
Yes.
And if you can go home after an experience like that and still want to do the thing, like still want to do the next show.
No, that's facts.
Then like
that's
maybe
facts.
it's for you.
Maybe you're in this thing for
maybe you
for
have
real.
it in you to go chase it.
Right?
So you need to actively seek that. Don't just try to find the gems and like go sit in the dirt. Just have fun in it. Like it's all part of it. It's like Rick Rubin says this cool thing where he's like, like every time you do a brush stroke, it's like it takes a second to do a brush stroke, but that's your entire life experience that made that. So it's really like it takes a lifetime to paint that one stroke. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's all part of that. And it all adds up, and you need to like actively seek all of that. So do that. Focus on that. Where you're looking inward a little bit by looking outward.
I feel like the blending of communities is probably the biggest thing this world could benefit from in unreal ways. And that the fact that even just like my workplace, the people that I work with, so different. And and not just in culture, but just in age, in lifestyle, in belief. And it's allowed me to actually look at God, look at the world, look at my peers and go, you know what? I like that you don't look like me. And I like the fact that you're not my age. And I like the fact that you're actually into ballet, or that you're actually into like finance, because that makes me actually go, if I only had a very linear, isolated friend group where we were all doing this thing, I think it's kind of uninteresting after a while, because what are we going to talk about? You know, it's gonna always revert back to art. And not that that's not endless, but I think allowing myself to have conversations with people who look, I have one friend who like put the Bible and memorized it alphabetically for him to be able to understand it. But I was just like, why would you be bothered doing that? He goes, well, I need to be able to understand it. But for me, that made me look at it and be like, okay, that's helped you compartmentalize because you are so analytical and you do need things to be in a specific way. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your ideas and your thought process. Is there anything else you feel like you would love to say about this topic of building a bridge and mixing the two worlds that we exist in together?
Yeah, one more thing.
Go
So
for
just
it.
based on what you just said.
Yeah.
So this is like the first time in history that so many communities and cultures can
Together,
be
yeah.
together, and we're so lucky to grow up in that for the first time, I would say, in history.
Mm.
Okay, so like you gotta understand that when it comes to your parents and it comes to your community having something to say about your pursuit, right? Like you have to understand that they couldn't have known what you were about to grow up into. There's no history where a Chaldean Assyrian hangs out with Tongans and Samoans and drinks kava.
No, facts. A cheeky 4
You know,
p.m.
and then, like,
afternoon. Yeah.
yeah, dude, and,
That's
like,
true. Yeah.
Is having this conversation,
Yeah.
you know,
And
so-
can have it without dispute. Like it's totally just
but
like.
then also have the like, I do the production, I do the mixing, I do the mastering, I do the whole shit, the whole thing, right? And even that, even if we did have these merging of cultures,
Yeah.
available, that also has to be available for me to even like, you know, get to where I'm at now. So like, this is a one of one generation, and it's the start of a like whole new age, and that's something no one saw coming 50 years ago.
True.
So we really, really have to like take the time to just honor that they're not going to get it. And that's fine. They're just not going to get it. We don't even get it, you know, so what do we know?
Yeah.
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 That's my 2 cents.
I love that. Well, this was season 2, episode 2 of Reset TV Talk. I'm your host, Audrey, and this has been
Raneem.
a musician, producer, crazy storyteller, and a man obsessed. We never spoke about bouldering.
Bouldering, dude.
Okay, wait. Why did you pick that habit
So
up?
much fun. There's problem solving involved. It's you against yourself. You get hurt. You get jacked forearms. Crazy finger training.
Because it came out of nowhere.
It's just a cool way to kill through.
I'd be on your story. It would be music, and then one day you woke up and it was just your blisters on your hand because you've
Yeah.
been doing all these things.
Dude, okay, look, I just got sick of lifting weights. Oh, look, I can pick the iron up and put it back down and then do it again. Like, dude,
Okay.
it's so boring.
Okay,
you know?
fair.
So, rock climbing is a great way to like get the yayas out, but then also like, you know, I don't even have to think about it. It's just
Yayas?
like the, you know, get the yayas out, you know?
Okay, the energy, the
bag,
flow.
like, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Raneem. You've been
Appreciate
great.
you.
You've been really good.
Thank you.
And I will see you guys hopefully in the next episode. That was fun.